Hey lady, are you ready to let go of all of your excuses of why you can't feel alive and energized while raising your family? Or maybe, because I know you are, a secret trailblazer who doesn't want to buy into the current culture of motherhood that preaches self-sacrifice, chronic fatigue, and pumping your veins with wine and coffee just to get through your day. This is the exact reason why I created the Mom is in Control Mastery and Soul Elite coaching programs. In my former life as a social worker, I was working with challenging behaviors every day, only to realize I had my own at home, which led me to discover mindfulness and conscious parenting. But it wasn't until almost 6 years ago when I was stopped dead in my tracks and had to completely redefine who I believed I was as a mother and a woman. I bought into the cultural illusion that my wants, needs, and desires didn't matter. And because of this, I almost died. December 21st, 2013, I was diagnosed with a stage 4 rapid growing cancer. I had no choice. I had to change. And since then, I've been coaching women all around the world, helping them create sustainable lives and relationships, feeling in control from the inside out. Are you ready to take your personal or professional life to the next level? Then I want to hear from you. I want you to head on over to momisincontrol.com and fill out that application today. And if you need another great reason to join me this month, stay tuned after the podcast as I will be sharing some added bonuses for those who take quick action. You are 100% in control of how you want to feel in your life, and you have the courage to do it. All right, guys, welcome. We have another interview for the Sustainable Motherhood series. Sarah Walton. I pronounced it correctly?
You did. You did. It's like the family on TV, right?
Oh my gosh.
If you're old enough.
I kind of know the Walton.
I didn't really watch it either, but I like to say it.
Oh my gosh.
The family on TV, or I wish it was Sam Walton of Walmart fame, but
that's so funny. I always have this deep-rooted fear, and I don't know if this is conscious or unconscious, that I'm going to say people's names wrong.
Yeah.
Even if I know them like really well, I'll be like, is it Heather? They're like, I have the same name as you. Like, you're not going to say it wrong. But I have this fear. So when I meet people, I can remember their face, and then I stop. I avoid talking to them because I don't know how to say their name, or I can't remember their name. I see them at the gym all the time, but we've never done that awkward, what is your name?
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my God, this is so stupid, because they're probably thinking the exact same thing.
Yes.
And then there's this huge disconnect, and we're all just craving connection.
Yeah, I know. I've done it too so many times where finally I just go, what's your name? It's like the worst. Like, you know about their kids, you know where they work, you know what's going on. They're like, shit, what's our name?
Or the creepiness where you follow them online and then you see them in person for the first time and you're like, I know everything about them, to the point where I know that their 2-year-old is potty training. And yet I can't say hello to them because I am going to have an anxiety attack or something.
Yeah, it's frightening.
It's very weird, the times that we live in. So, yes. And then I get those awkward looks where people listen to the podcast and they're like, and I'm at the grocery store, like, didn't brush my teeth, makeup running down my face. And they're like, are you Heather Chauvin? And after I'm yelling at my kids after I do the podcast on how not to yell at your children.
No, I'm not.
That's me. This is the real world, guy. There's no hiding it.
Mm-hmm. No fix for this one.
Yeah.
Real life. Coming at you.
All right. I'm going to do your little intro so people know more about you. And then I'm really excited to jump in this conversation.
Hit it, girl.
So Sarah's the founder of the Money Mindset course. Yes. An interactive course designed to transform our relationship to money, and the When I Grow Up program for entrepreneurs and about to be entrepreneurs, and the Better Way Moms, an online magazine for moms. So before leaving corporate America to support other full-time, I did read this before.
It's fine. It's all good.
Other women full-time, Sarah spent her 15-year career navigating the corporate world, where she managed a P&L worth hundreds of millions of dollars, worked closely with Marianne Williamson, mentored dozen of women. Okay, we're doing this on a Friday. Okay.
In the afternoon.
Mentored dozens of women and balanced motherhood at the same time. So I am really excited to have this conversation with you because you also quoted Dalai Lama in your bio, which is the world will be saved by the Western woman. And I am so fucking excited to talk to you about this because now more than ever, I'm just like, guys, we are getting in our own way. We can be the mother and women we want to be, do whatever our soul is craving. And yes, it's not going to look like you want it to, but it's magic. So welcome. So excited to have you here, Sarah.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I really am. This is so much fun. And, I think you and I have kind of been on the same track for years and years, and I can't believe we've never met. It's just awesome.
I know, but I do have this weird feeling like we did before, and I just don't know when or where. So
I think we bump in online lives. Is that a thing? I think we have to make that a phrase. Online bumping. I don't know, but that sounds weird. But yes, I think there's been some online bumping in too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so weird. It's so creepy.
Right.
But let's talk about, so the word money, let's just go there. People want to vomit sometimes when they hear the M word, and it's okay because my husband, my parents, whoever I want to blame it on, they're just bad with money. So therefore that's why I don't have any, or they're great with money. That's why I don't need to know about it. Why is this okay for women to have this story around money?
It's not okay. First of all, it's not okay at all. And I think there needs to be a massive adjustment. I think we're seeing it happen socially, at least in the United States right now, for sure, around women in general, that there are basic civil rights we're fighting for in a different way this time. It's not the women's, it's not the suffrage movement per se, but it's more of a basic, we need to talk about the atmosphere into which we've been born conversation. And I think a big piece of that, in my point of view, is money. And, through all the years that I got to work with Marianne Williamson, which was really cool, it was in my early 20s, I was living in the city. I was having this amazing life, and I'd get to go to the studio and record with her and listen to her lectures and meet with her in churches and kind of help run things for her and absorbing some of that. And it took years and years for me to understand how that works inside of money. And it was my own relationship. Right in my corporate job, I was making a lot of money. I was really happy that way. And I was miserable and wanted to die in every other way, which was awful. And so
money buys happiness, doesn't it?
Not so much. And in fact, I resented it. I was pissed that I had to make that money. I was pissed that I had to leave my kids. I hated that I only saw them in their pajamas. So now I have a messed up relationship with money, right? Because I hate it. And I'm furious that I'm in this situation. And it took years for me to take all that stuff from Marianne Williamson, all my personal stories, all those things, and understand what was actually happening with money. And I've come to understand money is in and of itself like water. It's absolutely clear there's nothing there, right? And it's all the stuff that we put into it that matters, right? And as water, it is designed to move. It is designed to flow freely. And if we hoard it or block it or try to contain it in any way, it gets really nasty. And that's where a lot of the weirdness comes from. And then the other piece that I've really come to understand about money, especially it's for everyone, but I think for women to understand this is important. Two things. One, I was just working with a client the other day who's an incredible yoga instructor, and she's been undercharging for years. And she said she finally understood that the amount of energy she's putting out needs to be matched by the amount of energy coming in. And it's not about being greedy, and it's not about, I need to pay this, or I want a new diamond ring. It's not about that. It's about congruence. And it's about a balance, right? She's totally in balance with how much she's giving out, and what's coming back doesn't match. And whenever that happens, just like me in my corporate job, right? I was getting paid all this money, but I was unhappy. When the imbalance is out, money tends to be involved, which leads me to point two, in that money has a very love-like energy, and not love like money is a replacement for love, not like that. But going back to A Course in Miracles or, Marianne Williamson, the idea that there's only two emotions. There's love and there's fear. That's it. And love, when I say money has a love-like energy, love's job is to bring up everything that's not healed. That's its job. That's why after you date somebody for a couple months, you want to kill them, because everything you haven't dealt with yet is going to come to the surface. And that's money's job, it pokes at everything that agitates you. And that's why people want to get rid of it sometimes. Like they don't want to deal with what needs to get healed. And if you can look at money that way, everything changes. Everything changes. Because if you're somebody who's out there to cause a difference in the world, if you're someone out there who does have a heart-centered business, all of a sudden you want the money because you want to grow yourself to be able to handle the amount of service you want to provide. And it just changes the perspective. It's not even about charging what you're worth. It's about creating a balance.
I know. I kind of don't like that term anymore of charging what you're worth, because I'm like, we're all worth billions and billions of dollars. But at the same time, money doesn't exist really. It's paper, it's numbers. But if you're attaching its worth to this non-existent thing, then you're worth abundance amount of love. So you really can't put a price tag on the service you provide, right? If like charge your worth, it really doesn't make sense when you kind of pull it back. But I love how you talk about it in this congruency. And it's funny when I'm working. So you were saying about money and how it brings up all your shit. And I do this with women in relationships and parenting, right? Mm-hmm. The parenting world, I'm like, it's personal growth on steroids, and money is personal growth on steroids. And it's interesting how there's correlation and connection between, oh, look, I'm acting the same way towards the money like I do in my parenting or my marriage or my health or whatever it might be. And that's really, really interesting, because you start to get angry and resentful when you're like, I'm providing this great service. Why are you not valuing it? Well, their vibrational energy is not a match for what you provide.
Correct.
And it's like how you have this, and then you're getting sick and all of that fun stuff. So that said, let's talk about, I'm just really intrigued. I want to know what happened to you when you were 16 in this grocery store. Because I was like, what do you want to, something about, what was the question I asked you? So in your intake form, I was like, darkest part of your own personal story. And you're like, I want to talk about this horrible moment in the grocery store. 16. I'm like, I need to know what this is. So let's talk about it.
Well, it's interesting. We call it a horrible moment. I don't know that it was, right? It's that whole thing that, the brain learns from awful moments. It doesn't learn from success, right? It's one of those things that we all
non-feel good moments.
It's like when we're all on the floor going, hamana. That's actually when magic is happening. It just doesn't feel that way at all, right? It's one of those things where I always tell clients, you'll write a book about that moment. You will. That's the one. Because it's really where the magic is. But all right, so this story is, you just give you a little background. I love to dance like a crazy person. Like I still do. My poor children. Like if Justin Bieber's song is anywhere in the vicinity, they're like, oh God, because I can't hold still. Like I love to dance. And I was like that forever. And that started, really when I was 5, I remember watching the other girls dance at halftime and watching cheerleaders. And I remember pointing to ballet shows on TV and saying to my mom, I want to do that. And I worked at it and we were pretty poor. So I couldn't take a lot of lessons, but I did whatever I could. And I always practiced. And, once we were able to get me into lessons, I worked my butt off. And the time came where I could join the high school dance team. Like it was tryout time. This gets me to age 16, right? And I've been wanting to do this. And it was like this prestigious thing. And the tryouts come. And I worked my butt off like it was Janet Jackson time. So like I had knee drops. I was popping up. I was killing it. Like I remember sweating in the basement. Like this was before parents got involved in anything. And I was down there by myself making this happen, right? And I did it. I tried out and I got on, which was like, I thought I was going to die of joy. I mean, this was just like, holy crap. And I had a really tight-knit community in Utah where I was raised, and people were bringing over flowers. Like it was a big deal. And then we got the letter about how much the costumes cost. And I wanted to throw up. I mean, I remember just like holding it and like, those moments when, your stomach literally just drops and you're just like, what? Because at 16, I don't know. Like I just thought I show up and dance and they give me stuff to wear. I don't, because we were poor, and we weren't like a little bit poor. We were like really poor. There were times we had a half a loaf of bread and a jar of honey in the house, and that was it. Like, I'm not like it. And that was a loaf of bread my mother had made, right? We had nothing.
Right.
And I'm looking at this going, I've wanted to do this for as long as I can remember. I'm going to figure this out. And I went and got a job at a kiosk in the mall in the 80s, because there was a bunch of tchotchke crap people were buying for no apparent reason. And I sold it. And I think I made $3.50 an hour. And I went and I did it. And I worked my
less
butt
than
off.
a coffee now at Starbucks.
I know, isn't that sad?
That's so disgusting.
It's weird. Like you look at, whatever. Anyway.
That's another conversation.
It is. It's a whole other thing. I always say to people, they're like, I can't afford to get coaching. I can't afford to make my life great. I'm like, how much did you spend at Starbucks last month?
Yeah, exactly.
It cost them 10 cents to make that. Anyway. All right. So I get my paycheck from this little kiosk job, right? And I'm so excited and I look at it and it's enough for the down payment and I'm super thrilled. And I didn't have a bank account. So we go to the grocery store to get it cash. They used to have like those customer service desks. And I go there and my mom says to me, Sarah, the strawberries are on sale. Can I get some strawberries? And I'm like 16. Why I'm being asked this question is another conversation for another time again, right? And I look at the paycheck and I think of, what's due for the costumes. I say, yeah, we can do strawberries. So I'm waiting in line. I finally get this check cash. It's taken a long time. And I turn around and I'm looking for my mom and my younger brother who's with her. And I can't find them. And finally, I kind of look and she's in line, in the long line, not the express line, in the long line with a cart full of groceries. And I just remember standing there. It was like, when you go underwater and the sound goes, I'm like, and I'm looking in the cart, and in the cart is milk for my brother, sandwich meat for his lunches, his favorite cereal, some bread, and yes, the strawberries. And I'm looking at it, and I know she can't buy that cart full of groceries. And I'm standing there, and I'm going, I can buy the costume I've wanted forever, or I can buy these groceries and make sure my brother has food. But I can't do both. And in that moment was this horrific split in me where I loud and clear got the message. You can take care of your family or you can take care of you, and you can't take care of both. Mm. And I took that lesson to heart, a lot. And I left Salt Lake City. I went to UCLA. I lived in France. I moved all over and I landed in New York City where I climbed the corporate ladder. I kicked ass everywhere I went, right? And I did it on the opposite, where I was making so much money that I could take care of my family and I was dying inside. On my chest, I remember the day I resigned, my chest was so tight for weeks on end. I thought that was just normal, right? So I took it to the extreme the other way. And that moment in the grocery store is what fuels absolutely everything I do in my business. It is all about more money in the hands of more women, because I don't want anyone to be in my mother's position when she was that day. That's ridiculous. My mom is so I want to throw up. I think about that, right? Oh my God, she needed me to come and say, here's how you make a business out of what you can do. But no startup costs, come with me, and I don't ever want a child or a young girl to be in the position I was in. And that fuels absolutely everything I do, is that moment of, oh shit, I can do this or this, but I don't get both. And over my dead body, is any woman in my sphere going to go through that? I have no tolerance for it at all. And I'm here on this planet to make sure that doesn't happen to other people.
I love that. I had chills from head to toe. And I was like, so you didn't go? So you didn't pick the outfit, your costume?
I didn't. I always let people ask, what the hell did you choose, woman? Oh my God.
Yeah.
No, I bought the groceries. And what happened is another woman, leave it to other moms, right? Another woman in my neighborhood heard what had happened, and she bought my costumes for me.
Nice.
We love other women, right? If you heard of that, you would have helped. All of us would have if we had found out a 16-year-old girl was in that situation.
I love it.
Yeah.
So this is the other question I want to ask. If you could go back to that version of yourself and the check was double what it was, what would you have done?
I would have done both for sure. And I think the other thing it taught me is boundaries, and it's tough. This was a boundary with my mom, right? And there's a whole other story with my mom and what was happening with her at the time, right? As a mom, we can all imagine. It's like, wait, what? You put your kid in what situation? All of us now we're like, right. I'm sorry, what are you saying? Right. And so she obviously had things she was dealing with, but what that moment taught me was about boundaries, even at that young age, right, is that there's a moment where we say, okay, we understand that this is what's needed and we understand what's happening here. How can I manage this, right? And obviously at 16, I didn't have that skill set, nor should I probably, right? Like that's an age where we don't necessarily have that. But I think it has allowed me, like extrapolating from that moment throughout my life when I needed to ask for a raise, when I found out male coworkers were making more than I was, like all those times where it's time to go in and say, with clarity, but also with empathy and compassion. You never have to be a bull in a china shop. You can go in and say, listen, I'm completely aware that this person's making more than I am, and I need you to make that right. And you put it back on other people and allow them to rise to the moment of excellence. And now as a woman, I would have turned to my mom and said, listen, this is your responsibility as the parent. What are you going to do about it? Right? And not in a mean way, not like, hey, what the hell's the matter with you? Not at all. Like, rise, move, come on. And I think that energy is missing a lot. I think it's missing in our parenting, right? With our own kids. Rise. I know you're bored. What are you going to do? Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's hard. That sucks. What are you going to do about that? Yeah. Like that energy of allowing people to be great. And I learned in that moment, I didn't allow her to be great, right? I didn't create a situation for her to be her best self either. Right. And being a fixer is what a lot of us women do. We do it in parenting. We do it in our marriages. We do it in our work. Like, I'll fix it. It's okay. It's okay. At my own detriment, I will fix it for you. And I think that that's damaging for us as well as for the way we view women in society. Right. And that's starting to change. People are starting to say, actually, like the Me Too thing, right? Actually, no, it's not okay anymore. And allowing those around us to rise and come up with us.
Yeah. And we were talking about that before we hit record about, when I'm rising, meaning I want to help more women. I want to make a bigger impact, and I need to surround myself with people who are able to hold that. Right. I'm sure you witnessed that too, working with Marianne Williamson. You gotta be a certain type of person to hold that. And, it's just like in your own personal life, when you're going through something. Like I remember when I was training for a half marathon and I wanted to quit. And, I remember calling people while I was running, not the marathon, but training, like my long runs. And I'd be like, I just want to stop. I'm at 8 miles. I have to get to like 10 or 11. And I knew who to call, because if I called the wrong person, they would say, just stop, Heather. It's okay. It's
fine.
Okay. And then I'd be like, fuck you. That's not what I needed you to say to me. Damn it. Why did I call you? Oh, damn it. Now I got to call someone else. Yes. My husband. And he would be like, why are you calling me? You know, you can do this. And then, I was like, okay, yep, that's all I needed. Right. But understanding the importance of rising. And I like what you talk about with what we do as parents. I have these situations on a daily basis. It's funny how I talk about my kids now, because I try to use informed consent and not be not let everything out. But so out of the 3 boys, no one will know who I'm talking about. But there's a situation the other day and it could have totally sideswiped me. And I was just like, yeah, sit with your discomfort. This isn't my issue. And you're totally projecting your shit onto me. And at the end of the day, there was an apology, and I was like, and there was an awareness, there was an aha moment. But I'm like, oh my gosh, a few years ago, I would have totally grabbed onto this and be like, okay, let's do this. And then I would have projected my anger and resentment onto you of why I don't have time to do these things, or why I don't have energy or money or whatever. And so I want to talk about leadership. I'm a huge fan of seeing parenting and womanhood as leadership. Like we're being called to rise as women too. I mean, if I have this child who jumps out of bed bouncing, great. I need to rise literally before this child, but also do the energy work that I need to do to be able to hold this child with their abundance. So this whole leadership thing and the resistance that people have to physically rise. What's your perspective on that?
Oh, it's so interesting. I mean, I think we've created such a society of mediocrity for all of us, right? That's why women have been allowed to be paid less, right? Because we're all like, oh, well, I guess that's just the way it is. And that's something I really work on with people, is this idea that this is just the way it is. Says who? And for why, like really questioning that and pushing through that, because this whole idea that everybody gets an award, why? why would we reward that? You don't reward bad behavior ever. And I'm not saying it's bad behavior, but it's mediocre behavior. And mediocre behavior should get a mediocre response. That's fine. Like if people are okay doing that, then that's great. That's appropriate. That's congruent, right? Back to balance.
Right.
But I think the biggest missing piece in leadership right now that we're seeing, and we're again watching this shift happen kind of live time. And I think, we're going to get to tell our kids about this time, I think a lot. They're going to ask us like, people ask about the 60s and watching people get hosed down and like, what the hell was that about? And you saw that and what did you do? And all these conversations that we're having. So as far as leadership, right? And like you said, I love what you said about rising to meet the energies that are coming at us. And I think on a larger scale, that's what we're doing. There's a lot of energy coming at us and we're rising to meet it. And inside of leadership, there are certain characteristics that are just flat out characteristics that leaders have. And I talk about them often, but you can learn them. They are habits you can create. These are skills you can master. Like this is studyable. This is learnable. There's not like some magic fairy doles out leadership to only a few people. But the number one missing thing I see in all of us, myself included, is courage and understanding influence. And courage it's displaying courage, right? Because anybody who displays courage, which is something, you've done talking about your past, what's happened, coming back health-wise, everything, right? That's displaying courage, right? It's a matter of saying, I'm strong enough to handle whatever comes back to me if I do this, right? That's a moment of courage. And the more we see each other do that, the more we give each other permission to do that and stand up and say, like we're seeing now, this is no longer okay. And then the courage to say, I'm drowning as a mom. And I'm gonna rise to this occasion. It sucks right now, but I'm gonna figure this out. Like I'm not the first mom ever. There are people around me. I'm not so special that my one problem, like no matter how bad it is, very rarely can we say no one has ever had this problem before, right? And letting that uniqueness go, like no, we're all in this together, and we've all banged our head against some of these walls. It's okay. So that courage to do that, to admit that, and to move through that, I think is something we're starting to see, and I think it's something that we all need to work on. And as far as influence, I think the biggest, there's six strong characteristics of influence, but the one I like to talk about most is character. And I think, especially online, what we need to understand is if we want to be leaders for our children, we want to be leaders in our business, we want to be leaders in the world, or even in our local community or inside our family, is character. People don't listen to what you say, they watch what you do. And I know we've heard that, but so what? Did you remember it yesterday? Did you remember the day before yesterday? Like you can hear it, but are you doing something about it? Like pushing people to really get in there about your character, because people are watching you 24/7. They're not watching you when you want them to watch you. They're not watching you when you want them to look away. They're watching all the time. And character matters, and it's compounding interest. And what we do with that compounding interest matters. And it matters most, I believe, with our kids. Yep. They're watching all the time. All the time. And I have to be reminded of that. I mean, I have a coach who's like, really, how are you in front of the kids? Shit, they saw me work all day. Damn it. And I didn't get up and I didn't pee and I don't want my daughter to grow up and think that that's what moms do. You know what I mean? Like, come on, like, what are you doing? Rising to the moment. Yeah. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah. And coming back from it. And I was talking to someone the other day, I said a simple, I'm sorry, or, I did something today that, I wasn't practicing what I preach. And it makes a big difference to say, we're okay. It's okay to make mistakes, get back on the wagon and keep going. Right. But like you were saying, character is so important, because we're usually constantly projecting, and the sun must have shifted. I'm dark all of a sudden. What was I just saying? Oh, we're constantly projecting, right? Why won't my child listen to me? Why won't my child respect me? Do you respect yourself?
Yes.
Well, no, but like, I want my child to respect me. Well, how can we demand respect from somebody else if your son or daughter is actually physically looking at how you treat yourself? And to understand this, we got to go deep. We got to go within. And unfortunately, there's no formula to figure this out. The formula is, how can I respect myself more? How can I love my money more? How can I value my money, my time, my energy more? You don't respond to the text messages. Literally turn your phone off. Guess what? You can give yourself permission to do that.
I could not agree more. And this whole thing where we do this, right? Yeah, honey, how was your day? Yeah, that's great. And then we say, look at me. when they're, when we're talking, no, you don't get to do that.
And then they're like, but mom, you do that to me all the time. You're like, don't talk back.
Yeah.
Don't talk back. Don't tell me, don't practice, whatever. Don't listen to me, say as I do, not as blah, blah, blah. And then they're like getting these mixed messages, and then they're frustrated and realizing I'm so far removed from this. But I remember a lot of people going, well, did I cause this bad behavior in my child? I'm like, you're not your child. They are not you. You are two human beings interacting with each other. And I think it goes back to this conversation about energies and how we are all connected. And it does make a difference in how you energetically show up because other people are watching and can feel it.
Yeah, they can. And they're watching all the time. That's the thing. It's, the other thing about character, and I think this is so intentional to do with our kids and to do with clients and customers. I think this part really is important. And in being intentional about how you craft your character, which sounds weird because it sounds like that's being manipulative and it's actually not. It's being intentional, right? Because nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be an asshole today. Like nobody does that, right? It's like totally unintentional. You just let life happen. It's coming at you and you just respond. And if you take a moment instead beforehand to actually craft it, you have a lot more control over how it goes. So it's actually a much smarter way to go through life. And when it comes to character, one of the things I ask people to practice, and this is so good to do with your kids too, is when you wake up in the morning, you want to ask yourself, how do I want people to feel when I leave the room? Mm. And I think that's more important than almost anything we can ask, right? Because I'm sure you've ever had that situation, Heather, where you're talking to somebody and it seems totally nice. Like it seems like a nice conversation. And then they leave and you're like, dude, I just got slimed and I don't know how. And I don't know what, it's like, ew. And you're just left with that shitty feeling. And it's because there was something going on. And you'll remember that the next time you see them much more than you'll remember anything that anybody said, right? It's that famous, I think it's Eleanor Roosevelt quote, right? People will forget what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And I think if you intentionally set up before a work meeting, before a networking event, before you see your children, when you pick your kids up from school, when you're making dinner, before they go to bed, how do I want them to feel when I leave the room? And I think intentionally planning that out beforehand. I want people to feel loved. I want people to feel seen. I want people to know that I got them. I want people to feel like they can accomplish things they want to accomplish. I want people to feel inspired. That's a whole other way to go about life. So it's not manipulative. It's not, I use the word crafting because it's intentional, but it's not something to be taken lightly. And I don't think very many people do it. And I think it's a detriment that we don't.
And I think that I'm like over here going, yes, you're preaching the exact, I always say, how do you want to be remembered? Right.
Yes,
so maybe,
I love that.
But I like what you're talking about with leaving the room because it's more micro where I can create that experience now, but I get morbid and I'm like, what do you want your children to say to you? But in your eulogy at your funeral, and they're like, I don't want to think about dying. And I'm like, but of course you don't. And that's why people sleepwalk through life. Yes. But crafting the intentional feeling, and you're talking about, the integrity and abundance and loved and all of that. And I could see a lot of people going, but I go above and beyond for people, but yet you don't go above and beyond for yourself. So in order to give, what's that quote? In order to give, you have to give to yourself first. What am I trying to say?
Something like that. Yes. But we all know what you mean. Yeah. It's the whole airplane, put yourself first. And
and you can't pour from an empty cup. And, and it's so funny because again, you could hear all this stuff. So there's a woman watching and she's going, I get it. I read all the books. I know what's going on. What's the difference between, spiritual entertainment, knowing versus practicing versus integrating? And I know you have something coming up or you've already started, which is your 8-week business intensive that you do with women. So I want to know what the difference is between knowing and doing and kind of being, and then where people can get more of you.
Oh, I love that. That is the question, is it not? Right? You see all the platitudes plastered all over social media, right? Be great, do this. Yeah. And then I'm going to go eat a ding dong, right? It's like, what, and really making that match. And I think, I will always bring my work back to congruence. I think it's really what drives me, right? Because in that moment, me standing there in the grocery store, that experience of life is not congruent with who I am, right? That just doesn't what? Like that doesn't match. And anytime you bump up against a moment where your life doesn't match who you really are, you're going to be uncomfortable and something's out of whack. And I think recognizing those moments is very important. But as far as actual integration, I mean, obviously I'm a huge believer in mentors. I don't know anyone whose business has taken off or whose life has taken off who doesn't have somebody by their side mentoring them. It's just not.
Or they're lying about it if they haven't had anybody.
I mean, yeah. I'm like a lone wolf. Like, you talk about personality types. I'm an eagle, right? Like I fly by myself, and I really do. And I have a mentor. Like there's no way. It's impossible. It's just impossible.
I got a kid walking in the door.
Hi, kid. But I think having a mentor is key. And I mean that. That's not like, Sarah, of course you're a mentor. It's a sales. No, it's not a sales pitch. This is I have one. Like we need each other. I think recognizing that is important. So needing each other and honoring that is important. As far as day-to-day integration, one of my favorite questions, and I'm doing this in my private Facebook group right now, all week they've had to say how they want to feel when their head hits the pillow that night. It's a really simple exercise, but again, crafting intentionally. Boom, right there. You've already altered everything because you're looking at things in a different way. And the other exercise are habits. I'm really into habits because, look, our day-to-day actions, our day-to-day conversations end up making up our entire life. And if you look back and you really actually think about it, your entire life is made up of the quality of the conversations you have. And that can sound, again, like a grand platitude, but think about it. You have a shitty confrontation with someone in the parking lot, you feel like shit for hours afterwards sometimes, right? You have a great conversation, it can lift you for the rest of the day. Yeah. So paying attention to the kind of conversations you're having and how you're creating them is important. And the habit that I work on for that is what I call the Sunday night review. I've been doing it for a long time and I'm a big, big believer in it. And it's Sunday nights. Sunday nights are everybody's chillaxing before you get into the craze of getting ready for Monday, right? So like 4 in the afternoon. Or I know for some moms, early Sunday morning's better. But just to sit down and how did I do this week? How did I do? Who was I? What did I accomplish? Where did I fall down? How's my health? How's my love life? How are my kids? How did I do? That sort of a conversation, even though it's a conversation you either have with yourself or you have with a mentor, right? That conversation matters. Because you're going to outline, all right, so I didn't do so well last week in the health department. It was Halloween. I ate a lot of candy. All right, this week, I'm going to give myself a little challenge to work out every day. It doesn't have to be forever. Maybe it's 15 minutes in the basement. I'm going to jog in place and do some push-ups and see what the hell happens, right? It doesn't have to be some grand old thing. But I think what we're doing, again, the society of mediocrity, what we're doing is we're taking in, I love that you called it spiritual entertainment. I think that's the most gorgeous phrase I've ever heard. I've never heard it called that before, and I love it. I think that's brilliant.
I think I heard Maston Kipp say it for the first time. Yeah. He was like, spiritual entertainment. I'm like, yes, you've put words to this. Cause people are always like, did you read this book? Do you listen to this podcast? And I was like, please stop sending me this information. I do not subscribe to one newsletter. I will listen to podcasts. I will follow people. I know when I need a mentor, I go check them out, typically through audio or visual. I get their essence. I like them. I say, let's work together. I need you in my life. Yeah. I don't need to follow them and read their emails for a year. Right. So that's bad coming from an email marketing person, but it's true because you know what though, but the people who want you and need you will follow you, right? That's the way this works. We need each other and we need each other in different ways and that's okay. And I think that's part of what we need to break through as far as spiritual entertainment and guru. I call myself the anti-guru, right? Like I'm perfect. Just do this for 30 seconds every day and your life will be perfect. It's like, what the hell? No, we're all dealing with something. And that's why it's so great to have those mentors that are like, guys, I'm just like you. I'm just a few steps ahead because I started earlier. But I'm going to make your growth process so much shorter and you're not going to suffer and struggle for decades and decades and be dead because I'm going to show you the real light of what this process is like. And then you can figure out what that is for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think it's critical. Spiritual entertainment.
Oh my gosh. Your face.
I call it entrepreneur porn.
That is so,
I hate it. It's like, get the hell off my newsfeed. Like knock it off.
And it doesn't feel good after a while. No. Sorry. It doesn't feel good after a while. Like it's an addiction.
Everybody feel bad.
Go outside, go for a walk, listen to the birds.
Yes.
Pick up your dog poo. It's so much better than listening to some of that stuff.
Picking up someone else's dog poop that they left in your newsfeed. Yeah, it's like, stop. Just stop with that. That's enough now. We can work with each other. We can figure this out. We can be there for each other. We can inspire each other. But let's tell the truth.
Yes, let's tell the truth.
Yeah.
So I love this. And I could tell that you're this person when you are mentoring people, because like you said in this conversation, it's about you come into my space, we're going to make shit happen.
Yeah.
So can you let people know, depending on when they're listening to this, they may be listening to this on the podcast, and I'm sure they can still, you might launch another time, but talk about your 8-week intensive that you have and where people can find more of you.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So, you can always find more about me at sarahwalton.com, and that's Sarah with an H, and it's Walton just like it sounds. So sarahwalton.com. I tried to make it tricky. All right. So my 8-week, I'm calling it a business accelerator. I've really worked on some of my clients with this. And I don't do group programs normally. Most of my work is one-on-one. Like I do one-on-ones and I have masterminds, and that's it. And so many women have said, Sarah, I can't afford to work with you one-on-one, but I really want to, or I'm kind of scared to jump into this space. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to do a group program. I'm going to give them everything I've got. We're talking about strategies. We're talking about money. We're talking about business plans. We're talking about my favorite financial system for business, which is called Profit First. Like we're going all in, like no holds barred for 8 weeks, 24/7, go. And really giving these women everything I've got. And you can learn more about that if you go to my website and you can type in, 8-week business accelerator, and it will come up.
Awesome.
And my goal in doing this, it starts January 1st, on the 1st, not January 2nd, because I, again, don't believe in mediocrity, right? Like if you're going to do this, why are you waiting? It's the first day of 2018. Let's go. And I'm super excited about it. We already have women enrolled, and those who enroll before January 1st are getting my year in review packet, which I give you normally just to my one-on-one clients, where we really go through your year, just like the Sunday night review, but this is about the entire year. What did you learn? What do you not want to repeat? And what skills are you going to need for next year, which is always a fun question to ask because it makes you think in a different way. So I'm super excited about it. And that's what I have going on.
I love this. And yes, I would not be where I am today without, we've been talking about many, many things, but I think women in community is magic. And I remember when I first started my group coaching program, so much resistance to it, because of the same reason. I'm like, oh no, but one-on-one, I can dig deep and da-da-da. And then, when you just show up as that person who wants to constantly be of service to people, it's not about the money. I take huge pride in when women say yes, and you just show up for them. So it doesn't matter if it's in a group setting, it works out to be, they're getting that and so much more. But this circles back to the conversation about women helping women and rising. And there's a priceless magic that happens when you are surrounded with like-minded feminine energy who are at the same level as you or want to be, and your all intention is just to rise above, and to rise above, your limiting beliefs, your blocks, your all of that, but you're just pulling each other up as you rise.
Yeah.
And, this has been a magical conversation.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. I've just adored it. Love it. Love it.
Thanks so much, Sarah. And I'm really excited. So you guys can check out her, online, sarahwalton.com. And if you did not watch this live stream, eventually, I do not know the exact date yet, but she will be on the Mom is in Control podcast. So you can check that out, iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts. Mom is in Control. Talk soon.
I hope you enjoyed today's podcast and it inspired you to take action. I cannot stress enough the importance of action and implementation. Too often, I hear women saying they read all the books, they go to all of the workshops, and we listen to all of the podcasts, but we're not taking that daily action needed in order to create transformation in our lives. And you've also heard me say before, or maybe you haven't, the importance of mentorship. That is why I created the Mastery and Soul Elite coaching programs. So ladies, I'm going to announce the 2 bonuses that I am offering from now and throughout May, because officially we kick off the programs in June. So the sooner you start, the sooner you gain access to these bonuses. So here they are. Number 1, the sooner you apply, the sooner you start. you can potentially gain a whole additional month of me, all of the other women in the group, our guest teachers, access to the content, and more time to create this long-lasting transformation in your life. This in itself is $100 value. Fuck no. It is a $800 value. Not sure why I said $100. It's an $800 value. So what you have to do is head on over to momisincontrol.com and fill out the application process there. Once you fill out the application, you're going to be immediately sent to a calendar to get on the call with one of my team members to do your introductory call to make sure that my coaching, this process, is in alignment with the support that you're seeking. Once you do that, if it's a perfect fit, you'll get on the phone with me. We'll chat a little bit, and if it's great, then I'll get you registered. And once you register, you have immediate access to the curriculum. So again, bonus number 1, $800 value. The sooner you apply, the sooner you start. And number 2, this is my favorite. So we have kind of, the second part is, the second bonus is a 2-parter. So we have the Conscious Parenting Implementation Program. This alone is $100. Why do I keep saying $100? It's a $1,500 value. So this is something I am not offering outside of Mastery or Soul Elite. This is only within the community. So too often I see parents come in, they're overwhelmed, everything feels out of control, and their children's behavior is a big trigger for them. So we're actually creating a little incubator where we're going to hold your hand step by step through the process to make sure that you are effectively implementing and taking action on these conscious parenting strategies in your home so you can de-escalate these behaviors ASAP. This is something I've never offered inside of Mastery before. It's an additional support. We are only offering it this round when we start back up in June. So again, head on over to mamasincontrol.com, fill out your application, and get that added bonus today. And for those of you who find yourself wanting support with business and life, we are offering a business accelerator. So this is an incubator program as well, where we're going to be walking step by step, hand-holding people, creating more ease, sustainability, profitability, because why not have a profitable business? There's all of these strategies that I've learned building my very successful business and brand online, but you don't need to be an online coach or brand in order to gain value from this. So the beauty of this is we're going to have small little incubators, where you're getting that attention from me. You're going to get attention from other coaches in my network that can help you accelerate and up-level your business. And the values are all about sustainability, profitability, and ease. So this isn't building a business in a box. This is truly about helping you create the business that works for you and your family's needs, and also helping you seal some of those energy leaks. So this in itself is a $3,500 value that you are going to gain access to this round when you join, if you join Soul Elite. But first, you have to head on over to momisincontrol.com, fill out the application. And what you're going to notice there is that it's one application for both programs. It's 2 different types of levels, or not 2 different types of levels. It's a 2-parter. So level 1 is Mastery and level 2 is Soul Elite. Soul Elite is Mastery is included in Soul Elite, but it's for 2 different types of women seeking 2 different things. So all you have to do is fill out your application. Based on your application, we can kind of tell which type of experience, coaching, transformation you're seeking. And then once you get on the phone with my team member, she will go over the program details with you. It's that simple. Head on over to momisincontrol.com, fill out the application. You have nothing to lose. I'd rather you fill out the application and get feedback from us that it's not a good fit than sit there, struggle in isolation. Change is possible. If you feel connected and called to take the leap, just know we all don't do this by ourselves. I have a team around me. I have a village. And it started with asking for help from one person.